As kids, we all have that one thing we could not stop watching. For one of my sisters, it used to be Teletubbies. So much Teletubbies. Those faces, that sun baby, this particular scene burned into my brain. For me, though, it was two things. One was Shrek, the OG, the GOAT movie. I used to remember every single line of dialogue in this movie. I wanted to be a smelly green ogre in a swamp, because he's just like me. The other, though, is a story about fighting tyranny, uniting as a people, and marching together against oppressors. Kinda like Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, but cuter and more bugs. Because as a little mouse, I could not stop watching A Bug's Life. And today, I'm gonna talk about its tie-in video game adaptation that really kicked my butt. A Bug's Life was an animated film produced by Pixar in 1998 as a follow-up to their widely successful Toy Story. A Bug's Life, the video game, was released pretty much the same time as the movie, most likely as a marketing tool to increase interest, and vice versa. Here, you play as Flick, worker ant, idea ant, gets into a lot of trouble ant. You pretty much follow the movie's plot beat by beat with a few creative liberties which we'll get to later. So, if you watch the movie, you have a good idea what stages you're going to play. And if you somehow played the game first, well, spoilers. Too bad. The game is a 3D platformer in the vein of Mario 64 and Spyro. You run and jump around, bonking enemies, collecting collectibles, with the main goal of either trying to get to the end of a level or gather certain objectives. Enemies are dealt with by chucking these berries. Now, other bugs can shield themselves from a berry attack, but a good old butt slam done through double jumping can do the trick. Now, tougher enemies will require a stronger berry level via these power-ups littered around the stage. But don't worry, Flick will remind you constantly about this.
Need more berry power!
As well as many other things. Enemies respawn indefinitely unless you use Flick's Harvester, usually placed somewhere on the map. You are invincible from most attacks while riding this, but jumping dismounts you, so routing could be tricky. Alternatively, you can try to find the elusive gold berry, usually found somewhere hard to reach. Which leads me to another core mechanic, the game's seed system, probably the coolest thing in this game. Littered around the stages are these, well, seeds. Some you can pick up and carry around, others are planted, stuck to the ground. If you jump on them, they grow into various types of useful plants, highlighted here in the lower left. There are mushrooms to bounce on, leaves to hop on, plants that spit out utility power-ups, and of course, berry-making plants, among others. Each of these can be upgraded by finding tokens of the same color. So the mushrooms can evolve into propeller flowers or a dandelion. I don't know how that works, but Some stages require certain types of plants to finish the level. Something which Flick, again, will happily remind you.
I need a cannon fight!
Others are more optional and mostly for the sake of completionism, which we'll get to in a bit. So, from a core design perspective, I think it's pretty good. It's pretty fun. Unfortunately, there's the issue of actually moving around the stages. It's not terrible, don't worry. It's just, I guess, slippery is the right term. It's tough to do precision platforming when landing a jump feels like you're always on an ice stage. Eyeballing jumps is difficult as well, since the moment your feet pass the platform, you would almost always slip. Compounding the difficulty is the game's camera system, which is another unfortunate flaw. Like most 3D platformers, there's some freedom as to how you can maneuver the camera to your liking. Some is the operative word here. By default, it'll always try to position itself behind you. The problem is, the camera itself has its own turn speed, and it's not good. When Flick makes a quick turn, the camera takes its sweet time to follow you, making it hard in situations where you're surrounded by enemies. While you can force the camera to snap faster, it's still not fast enough, and you'd have to spam the button to get it to where you want. You could lock the camera in place, but depending on where you are, it can make maneuvering even more of a hassle. Regardless of its movement and camera jank, I still find A Bug's Life, the video game, overall fun, even now as an older mouse. It does make sense in hindsight why I thought the game was much harder. Maybe I wasn't recalling the stages themselves. Perhaps it was just that getting to the jank was an exercise in frustration that an impatient child was really not equipped to handle calmly. But now, I am an adult, a big tax-paying adult. And this is a children's game after all.
Oh no! Oh no, 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 no! Oh no, no, no! Ah!
So now I can blame the controls in the camera for this one, yeah? Still, the game was easier than I remembered. Stages pass by pretty quickly. Most can be blitzed with almost zero problems. The collection stages could get a little tricky, but they're pretty easy to solve. And if lost, there are these droplet telescopes that show objectives for hidden power-ups and so on and so forth. And of course, there's Flick reminding you of stuff. I want to talk about the stages a bit more, because for the most part, I find that they're pretty well made, at least in terms of being faithful to the movie. From the anthill to the tunnels and the places beyond, it really makes you feel like you're in a set of A Bug's Life. You know, if everything is microscopic and it's shot like a real movie. Sure, there are a few stages where creative liberties were flexed for the sake of gameplay, such as the Dandelion Float, where this few minutes long scene became an entire stage in itself. And also, some of the characters were moved around as boss stages for the sake of, having a boss. Now, all of these are well and good, but it does kind of fall off around the second half, where some are reused with minimal changes. Plot-wise though, it makes sense, right? Because Flick does come back with the troop to the anthill and, trying to save it all. And it didn't really bother me before. In fact, I probably found it even more awesome because I was, playing the movie. So maybe because I just noticed and observed details better now, that having a repeat without, any proper climactic build-up feels like a phone-in. Or maybe I'm just becoming a little more jaded and I just tend to overthink a lot. Minus the tutorial, there are 15 stages in total, separated by 5 worlds, each with a boss in the end. The bosses themselves were, again, much easier than I expected. Just get a stronger berry and then whack away. Honestly, the real challenge was trying to get the collectibles without killing them first, since that ends the stage immediately. And this is funny to think now, since I deeply remember getting super frustrated fighting every single one of them, especially the final boss, Hopper, because both in the movie and in the game form, he's one scary bug. Like, behold. Which leads me to the graphics. For its time, it's not bad, honestly. There is a small issue with draw distance, which can be a hassle when looking for certain things, but the models themselves are pretty neat. They really look like their cinematic counterparts, I guess. Though now, these models look a little bit more unsettling and soulless, kinda like a PS1 inspired horror indie game, which I guess has its charm now. Still, the amount of accuracy and detail in the stages is pretty impressive and makes each level lively. Even the literal dry, cracked ground. Special mention goes to some of the boss deaths, which for a kids game, can get pretty gruesome. Oh. Now, here's my biggest surprise. The soundtrack for this game went hard. The composers, Andy Blythe and Martin Jostra, added this level of lively, swanky, sometimes jazzy tone to the game that seems to be a natural companion to the stages, which made revisiting this game even much more worthwhile, beyond just finally finishing the damn game. Which I did, finally. After decades of remembering my failure, I managed to jump, stop, and bury my way back to Hopper. And this time, I'm ready to win. And then it ended in no time. In fact, the only hiccup was me trying to do the tight jumps, and I've already talked about the camera problems. I chucked berries at Hopper, pushed him back, led him to the bird's nest, and well,
Help me! Help me! Ah!
and there you have it, a Bug's Life, the video game. It is a wonderful, if a bit janky platformer that's still loads of fun and wait, oh, was that the medals? What do you mean? What do you mean? I beat the game. I can end the video now. No, I can't. Every stage? No, I don't wanna. Please. So, there's one thing I haven't really talked about. The medals. So going for a 100% run of the game is a different beast. A difficult, terrible beast. In each stage, there are 3 types of achievement medals to get. Bronze requires you to collect every bit of grain in the level. Manageable, though some of them are drops from the enemy, so you need to double check. Silver requires you to grab the letters that spell FLIK within the stage. These are usually hard to get and would require some decent platforming and finding the right plans to use. Gold is a big jump in difficulty. To get it, you need to kill every single enemy permanently. This is done by either getting the gold berry or riding on the harvester and ramming them with it. This one is such a pain to do. Not only is the gold berry usually in a very difficult spot, requiring you to do some really serious puzzle solving using plants and whatnot, but if you want to use the harvester alongside it, you have to route your warpath as you can't jump with it, meaning more plant solving. This medal challenge gets compounded at some of the boss fights, where you have to make sure you do all of these before killing the boss. And as I mentioned, they go down pretty easy, meaning I actually have to avoid them and do some bug parkour. Now all of these are an obvious yet enjoyable filler to lengthen your playtime, and it is optional after all. But the sound you hear after you finish all of these at the end of the level just hits different.
Never too much grain. F-L-I-K spells foot. That's me. Oh, right. Oh, yeah!
Also, you do get something for your troubles in the form of extra clips from the movie. Since YouTube was not a thing back then, I guess it is a neat prize for your efforts. There are also a few secret levels with very obtuse methods of finding them. Each will lead you to the circus from the movie, where a big exclamation point can be seen from the top. Grabbing it will award you with, what else? More cutscenes! Hooray! Thus, for the sake of completely closing the book on this one, it is montage time, baby. And there you actually have it. A Bug's Life, the video game. A wonderful, if a bit janky platformer that's still loads of fun and a perfect nostalgia trip for a few hours. After making a few of these episodes already, I'm realizing that a lot of the games I'm picking are unfinished playthroughs. I'm not so sure what that means, but it's interesting because while that's the end goal, it's the reconnecting with myself and rediscovering things I miss that's becoming the real enjoyment. Something, journey, destination quote. More than that, it's becoming a regular reminder to myself that I play games because it's fun. Even with all the nuance and quote unquote depth in the medium I now know and understand, at the core of it all is a kid, just having a blast. And if I ever completely lose that, then what's the point? Thank you for watching. This has been A Large Mouse.